Martin Truex Jr. captures a second straight Cup race for the first time in his career. What about a third straight win as he looks for redemption at the Roval? Speaking of the Roval, we'll break down the new street course design, the field, the latest odds, our picks, as well as the updated playoff standings with 4 drivers facing elimination on Sunday. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets the shocking boot from Roush Fenway. All this and more on Prime Sports NASCAR for this Friday, the 28th of September, 2019. I'm the Prime Sports Radio Network, brought to you by RaceReviewOnline.com, RotoWire.com, and Covers.com. Make sure to visit Covers Experts at experts.covers.com, and you can take 50% off any purchase by using the promo code PRIME50. That's PRIME50. So, Eric, one more race to go, and then we get into the round of 12, and Martin Truex Jr. is hogging up all the wins.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when they basically on Fox Sports 1 every week. Cole Pearn is a guest. I believe it's like Wednesday on Race Hub, and he kind of hinted that they had more towards the end of the regular season. They were just preparing for the playoffs. And boy, were they ever. I mean, 2 straight wins, and it hasn't really been close. Yes, Kyle led the most laps at Richmond last weekend, but you could tell in the end Truex had the better car. So it kind of goes to show, too, maybe a little bit of the format for NASCAR, that when they get comfortable and they get in, they still are going to pack it in and prepare for the playoffs. And look what happened to Truex. Now, I think he's got a great chance this weekend to sweep for the first time in any of the playoffs for NASCAR, a round in general, let alone be the first round, because if anybody's the hottest in the season right now, it's Truex, and anybody's the hottest on a road course in all of NASCAR, it's Truex. So I think this is his race to lose again, and it could get another 5 playoff points, which is great for him for the rest of the round. So he's definitely, I think, now the championship favorite.
Opportunity to fix a wrong from last year. Jimmy Johnson wrecked them at the end, even though all it did really for Truex was prevent him from winning a race. The wreck knocked Jimmy out of the playoffs, which was really weird for someone like Jimmy Johnson to. And you could maybe even blame Chad Knaus. I mean, something's got to be going through their heads as far as this isn't about the win. It's about getting to the next round of the playoffs. But whatever. We'll see what happens with Jimmy this time around. Everybody was real excited about the way that the race ended last year. But if you look at it, if you take Jimmy Johnson out of the race, it's a boring Martin Truex Jr. runaway, which we've seen before lately when Martin Truex Jr. can dominate on these road courses. So I don't know what to expect. They've got the new course kind of configuration, and I guess the new term that I hope Dale Jr. doesn't just kill us with repeatedly this week is the word chicane. Please don't. What was that other word? Oh, what's that other word he used to say that at Watkins Glen or Sonoma? What?
Yeah. Gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. I know what you're talking about.
We don't remember it. He said it so often.
He said a lot. Yeah, should have been. Maybe I just put it out of my head.
We'll remember it. But anyway, so talk about this backstretch, this new backstretch chicane, and how it's going to affect the race, hopefully in a positive way.
I think it'll affect it a lot. Last year, if you remember right, it was so narrow that these drivers are going down, and they really weren't lifting a whole lot. Granted, they weren't flat out, but just the way it was shaped, they can take the quick left-hander, another quick right, and then back left, and you run turn 3 on the oval. Now it's a braking zone. And as Kyle Petty said it best this week, a braking zone is a wrecking zone. That guys can go in there and they could try to drive it deep. Because you cannot drive that corner flat out or even just barely lift. You're going to have to get on the brakes going into that first left-hand turn on the backstretch now. So it's going to be one that's going to change a lot. I heard some crew chiefs talk this week that last year they didn't know what to expect, and they planned for setting their cars up for the infield portion of the road course, and they said really nothing really changed on that this year other than the backstretch, the new chicane. But it's kind of follow the leader through there. There wasn't a lot you can do. That now they have to kind of flip the setups. Now you almost need to set it up for the oval to know you can get good runs on it and set yourself up for the braking zone, a.k.a. the chicane on the backstretch. So I think everything changed setup-wise. That could cause, to me, the way I've heard, that may be the prime target for some damage. I think we're going to see some wrecks back there. Maybe at the beginning, definitely probably on some restarts when it's closer together. And who knows on that last lap, that chicane. Guys are going to dive bomb each other. They're going to try to drive it too deep. These cars weigh over 3,400 pounds, and it's going to be hard to slow them down enough to make that corner if you're going to try to outbrake somebody. So I think we're going to see some damage, we'll say, in that portion of the track. So it's going
Okay.
to change a
By the
lot.
way, the word is carousel. Yeah.
Carousel. There you go. I do not think there's a carousel in walk is the Roval.
No,
That is
we got the
a
chicane.
portion.
So yeah,
Yes, we
so
got the chicane now, so
yeah,
we
so
will hear that.
hopefully we
Yep.
won't. Hopefully Dale will just talk. We'll just mention it once or twice. We don't need to hear Dale Jr. mentioning the word chicane as often as he mentioned. Uh, I already forgot it. The carousel.
The
I don't even
carousel.
want to hear that
Yes.
word anymore. Okay, so
No.
is this when you compare the road course to the other two? Because look, it was exciting the way it ended. So was that a fluke, or could this be the more exciting of the three?
I think it depends on who's running up front at the time. I don't think we'll see. I think the racing will see quite a bit like last year because, like the driver said, there's only so much room you can pass on the infield. It's just going to be a lot of follow the leader. What I think we may see, and I hope we see it to spice it up a little bit, is kind of like an IndyCar race where guys go off strategy. You might see some guys on three-stop strategy, some guys try to stretch fuel and go lesser stops. Because if not, if it's follow the leader and you can't really pass and everybody's on the same strategy, you get what you saw last year until the final lap. Granted, we could see a great final lap. It's just all going to depend on who's running up front. And Chad Knaus this week did admit he took responsibility. He did not tell Jimmy Johnson in that final lap
Right.
that he was good. I think he was 12, 13 points to the good heading to that final corner. He didn't have to do that. So do we see if it's a Penske car and a Gibbs car running up front, and we know those guys are probably in other than Eric Jones? Do they try to move somebody out of the way and get because it's 5 playoff points? We've seen how these races come down to a mere one or
Yeah.
2 points in terms of a cutoff. Do they run that corner differently, or is it if it's teammates, they're going to be clean, they're going to let them through? If it's guys that they're not close enough, they're not really trying to steal win per se, they may just let it ride out. But I think the most interesting is going to be if any of those bubble drivers are up front and needing to go for a win, how hard do they pursue the win, or do they go for points like Jimmy Johnson did last year? So I don't think we're going to know until the end. I think it's going to be dictated on who's running where in terms of do we see any kind of late
All right.
race
Speaking of
fireworks.
the playoff standings, talk a little bit about what the four drivers who are currently on the outside. What do they have to do to make sure that they are still alive after Sunday?
Well, for Alex Bowman and Clint Boyer, stage points. They're close enough. 2 points back is Alex Bowman. 4 points back is Clint Boyer. Stage points. Just get stage points. Just control your destiny that way. Kurt Busch, yeah, he's going to need stage points, but I just feel like being 14 points back, he needs to position himself for the end. I don't know if he can make up that much on the guys in front of him just because they're all kind of in the same boat. It's not like Kurt's been banging the doors or knocking on the doors to get in victory lane a lot recently. So he needs realistically, I think needs the win. He can make it on points, but I just don't know if he's going to accumulate enough because I think the guys in front of him are going to have the same strategy. Eric Jones. Oh, sorry about that. Let me turn my volume down. Eric Jones, he's got to win.
Yeah,
He's
okay.
45 points
He's
back.
the only one then. He's
It's
the
just
only
gonna
one
be
that
too
has to
much.
win.
He's the only one that we
Okay.
know's got to win. Is there enough points to make it? Yes, but you're not going to leapfrog three guys and make up 45 points in one race. He's got to win.
Who's relatively safe then? Who's already in right now, as long as they don't wreck.
Right now, three have clinched. Truex obviously clinched. Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch are in on points. We know they're in. They're good. I think I got it kind of separated in groups. My next group: Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, and Joey Logano. They're in. They're not in, but they're in. They're Keselowski's 55 points to the good. Hamlin's 54 points to the good. Logano's 50 points to the good. They have to finish 20. Like Logano's got to be 29th or better. So that would be a unforeseen something
Well,
bad happen. That would
Yeah.
take that. Yeah, and I think he'll play it safe. Hamlin's 33rd or better. Keselowski's 34th or better. Those guys are going to be better than that. So they're in. I think Chase Elliott, he's 37 to the good. He's got to finish 16th or better. I think he can do that. So I think he's in. Kyle Larson, he's eighth in the standings. He's plus 25. He's got to get kind of that fringe top 10, top 15, but I don't see any of these guys below him really finishing further ahead of him per se to knock him back. So unless he's got an engine something malfunction, I think Kyle Larson's good. From then on, I think it's going to be a dogfight. Ryan Newman's plus 14 right now. He should be good. Ryan Blaney's only plus 8, but I'm sure we'll get to him here in a little bit. I think he'll be good, but he's got to avoid wrecks, stuff like that. And then you
Where
got
can
Eric
Blaney
Almirola's
finish
plus 3.
where he's safe?
I think he's got to get a top
Really?
5 to be safe. He's that close. Yeah, he's only plus 8, so it's
Or he
not.
just has to make sure he's finishing
Great.
ahead of the guys that are behind him.
Exactly, and he's in a weird predicament. He's gonna
Mhm.
have a car to win. He won last year, and if say that fluke wreck doesn't happen, he still finishes third. So and he's been good on road courses. So I think he's gonna have a car capable of winning. But also, how much is his focus going to be on those guys behind him and knowing I just got to
Okay.
finish ahead of him? I'm 8 points to the good. So he's got an interesting predicament, but I know he's going to have a car good enough to continue on per se. But you've got Eric Almirola in 11th, that's only plus 3, and you got his teammate Clint Boyer 14th, that's minus 4. That's a tight group right there. That it could come down to the last lap on terms of somebody needs to make a pass to get in, and do they move that person to get in? So I don't think anybody from Larson down is feeling too good right
Okay.
now.
Well, let's talk about a few things before we get into the race that happened this past week. So, Ricky Stenhouse, surprising because really nobody heard about it. Performance wise, I guess you can't blame the organization for wanting their driver to accomplish more, especially Stenhouse. I mean, Stenhouse was like a hot driver. I mean, he was like one of the hottest
Mm-hmm.
drivers coming out of the Xfinity series in a long time. He was like that typical star kid that was going to be Joey Logano or better. One of those types of success stories. It just never happened.
Yeah, it's just shows that sometimes Xfinity success doesn't necessarily lead to Cup. And he had that background of the Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, Carl Edwards, Casey Kane, like that USAC dirt racer background coming through the ranks. He almost lost his job in 2009. He crashed a lot of race cars. Jack Roush sat him down. They came to an agreement to continue on, but he had to fix some of his crash damage. And then he paid him back, and he won 2 straight Xfinity championships. And it was like, all right, this is who we want to see. This is that young driver coming up. But he's made 248 starts in the Cup level since he got there. He's got 2 wins. Both are on restrictor plate tracks. So I think a lot of this, honestly, is a Ryan Newman effect. I think bringing him in and you see what Ryan Newman can do week in, week out. I mean, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has made the playoffs once, and that was by virtue of winning races. Ryan Newman just made the playoffs in his first year, and he hasn't reached victory
Yeah.
lane at all. And I looked at it. Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s got 2 top 10s all season. He's 26th in points. Ryan Newman's got 2 top 5s and 11 top 10s. And to go further, Ryan Newman in 28 starts this year already has a third of Stenhouse's career top 10s with Roush Fenway. And he's done that in one and not a full season yet. So I think a lot of this is performance based because we know Roush Fenway, they've been searching. They for a while they thought it was the cars when Trevor Bayne and Stenhouse are driving. Like, well, I think these cars are junk and we need to figure out how to get them better. That's why they brought Matt Kenseth in last year. And if you remember, right, Kenseth by the end of the season in that car, he was running top 10, top 15, and he was getting some top 5. So they thought, whoa, maybe it's more driver than car driven. Granted, we do have an issue with some of these cars, but he's showing that we do have some performance. Then you bring in Ryan Newman and he just hits the ground running. And you got to look at Stenhouse
Okay.
hasn't really improved.
What
So
happens to Stenhouse then?
Chris Buescher, I think it's going to be interesting with him. I don't see him going to the Xfinity Series. What gain would he have by going back down at as long as he's been in Cup? I think his best option is going to be to see what Stewart Haas Racing does with Clint Boyer and Daniel Suarez. I think everything I hear, Boyer's probably coming
Yeah,
back.
but why would you
But
want
Sten,
Stenhouse instead of those two guys?
well, I think honestly, I would take probably one. Stenhouse is younger than Boyer.
Yeah,
I
I
think
would
he
think
might have
about
some
that. Yeah,
upside.
Boyer has really been disappointing the last few years. But Suarez, I wouldn't. I mean, he's young. He deserves it.
Suarez, no. Yep. And you got to think too, Tony Stewart's relationship with Stenhouse. They get
Okay.
along real well. They got dirt racing sprint car
Okay.
background that Stewart likes Stenhouse a lot. And you got to remember who was Stenhouse's girlfriend before this season and where did
Okay.
she race. So there's a connection there. I know Tony Stewart is very fond of Ricky, and maybe he could take him under his wing and help him because Stewart and Stenhouse like the same similar setups, and they both are dirt guys. Dirt guys like a similar way. It's like Stenhouse and Larson and Bell. Guys drive race cars the same. Stewart may be able to help him, guys, but if Boyer and Suarez both come back, he's not going to have anywhere to go. Plus, Stuart Haas has Cole Custer sitting there. I don't know how you would probably put Stenhouse in over Custer. It would need to be probably both seats opening up unless Stuart Haas finds an alliance, which they are searching for. Other than that, I think his only other option will be to basically replace Chris Busher, with JTG Doherty, kind of them flip flop rides. Because JTG needs a veteran, I think, presence, but they could also look at somebody like Ross Chastain. So Stenhouse, other than that, he may be on the outside looking in next
All
year.
right. So then Busher gets the gig,
Mm-hmm.
and at times he definitely looks like one of those drivers that deserves a shot.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no problem with this. I still, every time one of these other younger drivers get a better job, I'm still wondering why nobody's going with Wallace. But I don't know. I don't. I'm not
Well, I
getting
could,
it. But Busher deserves it.
and a lot of people were wondering that, like why Chris Busher and why now. But a lot of people also didn't realize that Chris Busher is still under contract with Roush Fenway. They're just loaning him to these
Okay.
teams because they couldn't expand to a third car. They didn't have the funding. They wanted to get their two car organization up to speed and then bring him back. And now it's showing that they are showing some pace that they can be a playoff contenders. Granted, Ryan Newman's not going to win the championship. They know that, but they're a
Really?
playoff car. So, well, he can surprise us. But Busher, when he was with Front Row Motorsports, Roush Fenway was paying the checks. They were signing the checks. They loaned him the JTG. He could still work out a contract with them, but he was technically, at the end of the day, his big contract was with Roush Fenway. So I think they thought Newman's showing performance. Busher's showing performance with JTG. Maybe let's move him back. I think it's time to move him back. He's technically our driver, and let's see what he can do. So I would be curious what he can do. I mean, he's done a lot with JTG. I don't think JTG is on the Roush Fenway level. I think Roush Fenway's a notch above them. So let's see what he can do with Ryan Newman as a teammate. And I think next year we'll say a lot about the car.
Okay.
Is it performance or is it Stenhouse? So we'll have to see next year to get that answer. But I'm okay with that move just because he's under contract with them.
All right. Now, as far as the field this week and our picks, CJ had the first pick. He went with Kyle Busch at 5-1. You went next with Truex at 3-1, and then I took Denny Hamlin at 8-1. So you had to feel pretty good about getting Truex with the second pick, considering he's won back-to-back races. He should have won this race last year. He won Sonoma, and he was runner-up at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, and 3-1, I didn't like the odds, but it's like after they were trying to pick who's going to win, and I just feel right now he's got to be the favorite. You take out the Roval last year, where going to the last turn he was leading. He's finished top two in every road course race since
That's
2017,
crazy.
and he's coming off of two race wins. He's finally knows what it takes to win back-to-back weeks. So I just thought, you know what? He's the hottest driver, and until somebody can prove otherwise,
Right.
that's the guy I'm going to roll with right now. And I was more shocked that Harvick 14-1, Blaney 18-1.
Yeah.
There's some good values
Yes.
down there, but as far as the sleepers or the favorites up top, I think it's granted he's almost half the odds of everybody else, and there's a reason for that. So yeah, I went Truex just because I think he's going to be the favorite to win.
Yeah, Kyle was second at Sonoma, and he's 5-1. So the good odds for Kyle. He comes off a much better race at Richmond too to get his momentum back.
And you got to realize too, Watkins Glen, he had a good top two, top three car, but he got the little extracurricular stuff there with William Byron. And so I think he still finished 11th, which was impressive for having a damaged car. But I look at Joe Gibbs Racing as a whole. They've won 4 of the last 5 races on the season, 15 overall. You look at what they finished in Sonoma, first, second, fifth, eighth. You throw Matt DiBenedetto was up front there. That's 5 Toyotas in the top 8. You look at what they did at Watkins Glen, 2, 3, 4, 11. So I do think Toyota and Joe Gibbs have something going at road
That's
courses,
why
and we
they're
got
top
another
three
road course.
picks.
That's why. That's exactly
Yeah.
why. So that's with CJ went with Kyle. I was like, well, I'll have to go with Truex because he's right there too.
Yeah.
So yeah, Joe Gibbs Racing is going to be one that's going to be tough to stop this weekend.
And Hamlin has shown he could perform well at road courses. 5th at Sonoma, 3rd at Watkins Glen. He won not too long ago, won one of these road courses. And he was actually, with all the damage being done last year, just keep in mind he was the top Toyota results-wise in this race. But still, Denny is quietly right back in contention for a championship, and that's why I think he's a solid pick. I think any of these drivers, even though, I mean, take Truex out of the way, but Kyle, Denny Hamlin, these guys, even though they're pretty safe, they'd like to get wins. It's just
Yes.
it's just something where you want, just sort of like what Martin Truex Jr. was able to capture was that momentum. You want the momentum of feeling good that you can win races at this time of year.
Exactly, and like I said, that those 5 playoff points, are big for the next for rounds moving forward because you carry them with you. And we got Talladega in the middle of the next round, and you do not want to go there needing points. And these 5 playoff points go a long way. I mean, because all this gets reset. Yes, like Denny Hamlin's 54 points to the good right now, but at the end of the round and the checker flag falls, it all gets thrown out the window and reset, and it's reshaped by your playoff points. So, and he's looking like a championship contender. Vegas has never been a strong track for Hamlin. We talked about that last week, so I take his finish there and just throw it out the window. Last week he was back to normal. I think another top 5 for him would be great, but he's got race winning potential, and I think Joe Gibbs, especially after the way last week ended. They thought they had a 1, 2, 3, 4 finish, and we saw what happened to Eric Jones. They want to come back out and replicate that, do that again, and go to the next round with that statement. It's like, if you want to win this title, you got to go through all of our drivers, not just one of them. So I think Hamlin is definitely due for a win, and he could easily reach victory lane on Sunday. I would not be shocked whatsoever if he does. Plus, you get him at 8-1.
That's definitely a bonus. Elliott 7-1. Keselowski, Larson are also 8-1. And even though Keselowski, if you take a look at him, he really hasn't performed all that well recently on the road courses. Larson, I just don't know what to think about him. He's back down to 8-1. And we talked about that all the time with Larson. When he's 8-1 or lower, it's just not a good spot to grab him. But he had a good car last year. He was lucky to make it out of. I mean, that you couldn't have if the Hollywood would have handed that script in, that would have been part of some sort of movie. The way that race ended, we would have talked about how goofy that ending would have been. I mean, come on, that can't happen. But Larson still found a way to get in, even with a damaged car. But he's a pretty good road course driver. The problem is, and we wouldn't even be surprised if he winds up on the pole. At any of these road course races, but it's the staying power for whatever reason on the road courses. But out of those 3 there, the last 3 that are considered favorites, I mean, I think Elliott is live because he won Watkins Glen. He was solid here last year. So I think he's pretty dangerous at 7-1.
Yeah, I'd say Elliott or Larson. I'm not sold on Keselowski this week. Granted, he just needs to finish 34th or better, like we said. And I think that's all he's going to do. On road courses, he just hasn't been strong. He finished 18th and 9th in the 2 this year. We saw him strategize his way to the front on the Roval last year, and he took everybody off the cliff in turn 1, and they all followed him. So Larson, he finished 10th and 8th on the road courses this year. He was only 25th last year because he got caught up in that crash with Keselowski, but he's got 7 top 8s in his last 8 races on the season. He has 10 top 10s since Sonoma and 13 starts. He had 4 in his previous 15, so he's trending the right way. But I just don't know if he's going to end a winless drought on a Roval. I just think that a solid top 8, I don't see race-winning speed in him yet. I don't see it in Keselowski, albeit he's got 4 top 5s in his last 5 races on the season, 7 top 10s in his last 9. but they haven't been on a road course. So I think Elliott and Larson just need to get enough points. I think early they may go stage points just because they're right there on that cusp of just knowing that they can advance along. So if I were those two, grab the stage points while you can get them. Give yourself a nice cushion going into that final stage. So that way, if you get caught up in some fluke wreck, you don't have to worry about it. You've got enough points that
That's
you
right.
can move. You know you're comfortable moving on. But I'm not sold on any
Yeah.
of those guys winning. I really wish Kozlowski and Larson, it would have been a little more interesting if they were more like 12-1 range. I think 8-1 is a stretch for them right now, just because of how good Joe Gibbs Racing is going to be. That I just think those guys, they just need points rather than a win. And I think that's what they'll try to do until you get to the end to see if they're there. Other than that, they're just going to get points, live the fight another day, get to the second round, and we've seen how good Elliott and Larson and even Kozlowski can be at Dover, which is next week. So I just think they'd rather carry the momentum over than risk wrecking or having some engine issue or something
All right.
to take them
Well,
out.
the sleepers, though, that have a little bit more of a bargain number would be, as you mentioned, Harvick is at 14-1. He's always pretty solid on the road courses. And Ryan Blaney, the defending champ, who actually won the second stage last year, he was third at
Mm-hmm.
Sonoma, fifth at Watkins Glen. So, he's your sleeper. Uh, I'm assuming you would have also taken Harvick as a sleeper if Blaney had maybe been taken away. Kurt Busch is
Yep.
CJ's official sleeper. He was fifth at this race last year. And I'm going with another Toyota Di Benedetto at 80-1 as my sleeper. And this is definitely a week you want to take Di Benedetto as one of those long shots at 80-1 because of how strong he's been on the road courses this year.
Yeah, De Benedetto is a no-brainer. I'm
Yeah,
shocked he
big.
was
No,
80 to
that's not
one.
going to stay.
I literally
That's
thought
going
they
down fast.
no, especially if he qualifies in the top 10. But yeah, he's going to be up there in the mix. He's been that way for all the road courses so far, and he wants to end the season with a win. And he wants to reward Levine Family
Absolutely.
Racing now that he's found a ride. So I think he's going to be a guy to watch. Plus, he knows other than Eric Jones, the other Toyotas they're in, so he can race them differently. He knows that hey, I don't have to worry about wrecking any of them because or making a mistake, sliding up, knocking them out of the way because they're in. I'm not ruining their day. So I think he'll be up there. But I was shocked with Harvick. He finished sixth and seventh, respectively, on the two road courses. Ninth in this race last year, 8 top tens in his last 9, and he's 14-1. He's won at both other road courses. He's arguably probably the second hottest driver in the series right now, and you can get him at 14-1. So granted, I don't know how long that's going to last because we've seen how good he's qualified lately. He could start up front, and those numbers could drop drastically by the end of the day. So right now, I would grab him. Ryan Blaney, yeah, I was shocked, 18-1. Granted, he hasn't had a lot of top fives lately. Won his last 6 on the season, but he's got 2 top
Mm-hmm.
fives on road courses this season. As you said, he won this race last year. 6 top tens in his last 9. He's the best Penske driver on this track. So I would say Ryan Blaney for sure is going to be one to watch. He's +8 in the standings. He'd rather just control his own destiny, get a win, and move on. Because he admitted this opening round of tracks are not his cup of tea. They're not his forte. Once he can get past, then all bets are off. So plus it's a big momentum
Yes.
builder to get a win going to the next round. So yeah, 18-1, that shocked me. Eric Jones at 22-1 shocked me. Granted, he needs a win, but he's got 2 top 8 finishes on
Yeah.
road courses this year. He's been good on road courses overall. I believe it's 5 of his last 6, if I'm not mistaken, resulted in the top 10.
But he needs a
So,
win,
and
and that's
him
good.
need
So you don't have to
he needs a
worry
win.
if it's fantasy.
Yeah,
That's one thing. If you're worried about your driver, who wants stage points, he wants to get to the next round. He's going to be conservative. But here you got a driver. He doesn't care about anything except winning. He's got to win.
and he's got a car capable. We talked about Joe Gibbs Racing, how hot they are on the season, how great they've done on road courses. And to me, if I'm Eric Jones, I'd rather be in his position than Kurt Busch, say like 14 down, because at least all you got to do is win. Throw out points, throw out anything else. Don't even have to worry about what anybody else is doing. Just go out and win. And he's got his full support of his teammates to get that car right. So I wouldn't be shocked if he won on Sunday. I mean, you got to look at the guys that's on the playoff bubble, which I'm sure we'll get to here in a minute. got the most capability of winning than all of them. So I think, and you can get them for
Yeah,
22 to
good
1 right
value.
now. So those three right there are great value, or four. Throw to
Uh,
Benedetto are great values. The
Jimmy's
sleeper scale.
28 to 1. And of course, he almost won this race last year. Bowman was
Hmm.
fourth in this race last year. He's 80 to 1. And then Ryan Newman was 11th in this race last year. He's 80 to 1. So, what about those drivers or anyone else on the board worth taking a look at?
I think probably just those right now. William Byron might be one, 66 to 1. Granted, he finished 34th last year. And you look at his road course finishes this year, 19th and 21st. You may ask, why in the hell did this
Yeah, he
guy
does
choose
better
William
than that.
Byron? But you got to,
Yeah.
yes. 19th at Sonoma was only because they went stage points. He had a top five car that day, and they admitted we gave away a top five finish because we wanted stage points, and hey, it worked. It
Yep.
got him into the playoffs. Watkins Glen, he finished 21st, but he didn't have a 21st place car, as we just talked about Kyle Busch. He had a top five car, and he went for payback, and Kyle brake checked him, and he damaged his nose, and he just limped home to 21st. He's got Chad Knaus on the pit box. Chad Knaus is great at road course setups. You look at what he did with Jimmy Johnson last year. So a guy at 66 to 1, and you look at his finishes, you're like, yeah, he probably deserves to be there. But you look deeper than the finishes, and you see he's got a car capable of winning. So I would be almost wanted to say throw a couple of units his way because you never know what can happen with him this weekend. Alex Bowman scares me a little bit. Yes, he finished fourth last year, but you look at his two road course races this year, he finished 14th in both. He's got two top tens in his last 11 races, one top five in his last 16. I don't know if they are trending right now. Granted, they look good in Vegas, but if you look at Hendrick as a whole, we've got two playoff races in. Their best driver right now is Jimmy Johnson, of all people, and that you don't want your non-playoff
No.
driver to be your best driver. But I think Johnson, and he knows that he may be able to help his teammates, kind of like the IndyCar race last weekend. You had teammates helping their championship eligible teammates. They felt, hey, if we can get a win, we can help them because we take points from somebody else. I think that's Johnson's role this weekend. Go out and win. Take a guaranteed advancement from Eric Jones away. Go out and win this race and help your teammates get in. Steal points, get stage points, take them away from Clint Boyer, Eric Almirola, those type of guys. So I think that's Jimmy's role, and then we'll see what can happen when he gets there in the end. He's had faster race cars since Cliff Daniels has taken over. So much past those guys, I don't think we're going to see any upsets unless all four Joe Gibbs cars gets taken out by engine issues or wreck or something. But other than that, some guys are going to have to strategize themselves to get there, and I think those guys will have fast race cars to get a strategy play or a call to get
Okay,
them there too.
so we close out with the futures, and this week you added Kozlowski at 7 to 1 and Harvick at 6 to 1. So Harvick is now your third top driver. You would make a little over a couple of grand if Harvick were to win the championship. Kozlowski, you're still behind on, but that's probably the point of why you wanted to boost Kozlowski's stock. So you're not so much in the hole there.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I didn't take Keselowski thinking right now, yes, that guy is going to win the championship. Because right now, I'd say no, he's not going to win. But we know he's going to make it to the next round. We've seen how good he can be at Talladega. We've seen him be decent at Dover in the past. Kansas, he won in the spring. So does Keselowski get hot next round and those odds drop, and now I'm really in the hole. So I went ahead to try to boost him up a little bit, and I can just kind of slow play him as he goes further along. Harvick, yeah, I just feel like he's right there. Truex's odds, I've got him good enough, I
Yep.
think, right now that we'll see what happens after this weekend. But for those two odds, the way they sat, I
Yeah,
went
right
with those
now,
guys.
Truex is you're in good shape there. You're about $2,500 almost that you'd make if
Yeah.
Truex ends up winning the championship. And all the other futures should be up and posted up on the board. CJ's got his picks. I have my picks. I actually added Ryan Newman for the first time at 50 to 1. I said, why not? He's a
Never know.
veteran
Yeah.
guy, and he just seems to be getting better. And you picked him up on your
Mm-hmm.
fantasy team, and he sure has been a big help. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Big time.
so Hemrick kind of put you, behind the eight ball there. But matter of fact, every one of your drivers is a playoff driver.
Yes, yes. Yes.
on your fantasy team.
I saw
Yeah.
that last week. Yes, and we know that how the playoff guys tend to finish
Yeah,
the
that's
top
right.
15. So I'm like, this could work. This could work
Yeah.
out in my favor in the long
Now we
run.
both
So
have to
yes,
start getting some wins because CJ's been hogging
yes.
up the 2 wins with Truex and all the 400 points that come along with it. So boom,
Yep.
he's all of a sudden vaulted into the lead. But we got what 8 more playoff races, 7 more
Seven.
playoff
Still
races.
7 races.
So
Yep.
and the points just keep getting higher. So we've got more than enough time to right the ship. All right. So what are you
Yes.
going to be doing for racereviewonline.com this weekend?
I have NASCAR and I have some NHRA stuff back up again. They're in St. Louis. I did some Lucas Oil Raceway here in the Indianapolis. Their big race on Labor Day weekend. I liked it enough. They're having me back, so I'll write some stuff up with that. But full NASCAR stuff too. Definitely going to look at the playoff bubble. That's the big one. And then see if Truex can sweep the round. It's never been done before. So those are the 2 big storylines going into this weekend. It's tough. If I had to make a prediction for the bubble, the guys that get in, I would have to say top 9 right now. They're all Truex, Harvick, Kyle, Kozlowski, Hamlin, Logano, Elliott, Larson, Newman, Blaney, and then I think we're going to see some change at the bottom. I think William Byron gets the 11th spot, and I'm going to go Clint Boyer taking the 12th, which would leave Eric Almirola, Kurt Busch, Alex Bowman, Eric
All
Jones out.
right. Well, we'll see if that holds up. And then Dover next week. And then after that, Talladega.
That's it. Yep. And then, hey, did you see the? I meant to tell you this. The schedule times came out for next year, and going into the playoffs and into the playoffs, we have 5 straight night
Okay.
races.
That's good.
That's over a month, and it's a month plus a week. So we're gonna go. We're gonna get to see night racing, which we've been asking for. I think
Are they
what
on
2 years
Saturday
now.
night
More
or some
night
of them on
races.
Sunday night?
All Saturday night minus the Vegas race on Sunday night. So we'll have 4 Saturday night races. Because you'll have Bristol, Southern 500, Vegas, Richmond, and I forget the other one's Daytona.
Okay.
So 4 Saturday night races, 1 Sunday night race. So it's it's in their prime of their season, going at the end of the regular season and through your first. I believe the whole first round of the playoffs is going to be all primetime races.
Any changes as far as races next year? Well, Daytona.
Yeah, they
Daytona's
switched
the
them
last
around.
race now next year to get into the
Yes.
playoffs.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, they will
That'll be
be
exciting.
yep, and they kick off the playoffs at the Southern 500. So they moved it up a week, the playoff start date, and then Bristol's a playoff race. So the first round will be the Southern 500, Bristol, and if I'm not mistaken, Richmond, and then they'll kick off the next round with Vegas. So Vegas moves to the second
Bristol
round,
night
but
race in the playoffs.
hey, we got a Bristol night race in the
Nice.
playoffs, yeah, and the Southern 500 in the playoffs.
Well,
So
that's good.
I think there's some good change. Homestead moves up to March. I'm sorry. So they're no longer November anymore. So they'll have them in March after Atlanta. Atlanta moves back on the schedule. The one head scratcher I'm still trying to figure out is my home race, the Brickyard 400, being the 4th of July race weekend, and they're not starting it till 3:30 on the Sunday after the 4th. So July 5th, that doesn't make any sense to me because I think if anybody's going to come to town for the 4th of July, again, I don't know why anybody would want to come to Indianapolis on the 4th of July weekend. And if you come for the Brickyard, a 3:30 start on a Sunday doesn't give you much time to get back home. So I would have ran that race like they used to Daytona on July 4th. I would make it just unique. Whatever that falls on the 4th of July, it could be on a Wednesday. That race will be on the 4th of July. Give fans time to travel here, but that's my one head scratcher on the schedule is you're going to run Indy in the heat of the day at a 3:30 Eastern start on in July. So it's going to be 105 degrees probably.
Good weather. We'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah, without as Chase Elliott told me, I believe it was in Chicagoland this past year that we're talking about the change. At least he goes, no offense to Indy, but at least Daytona and that weekend has some pretty water to look at. We got an ocean. You guys have just concrete. You don't have any bodies of water, and he still had the same heat.
Racetrack.
So other than a boring racetrack. Yeah. Yep. So should be a glorious race weekend.
When are you going
next year.
again on remote?
Talladega.
Okay. So
yeah, Talladega.
Weeks.
So
all right,
couple
sounds
weeks. Yep.
good. Appreciate it, Eric. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you. Yep,
And also,
absolutely.
CJ will be with us soon as well, because we might go to audio next week. We're going to kind of rotate a little bit with video and audio. So we'll get CJ back next week, maybe when we turn to audio. So appreciate it, Eric.